What's going on, YouTube? We're back with another video today, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Benchmade S90V and then some discussion on proper sharpening abrasives towards the end of the video. So I've had this 940-1 for quite a while now, probably a year and a half or so. Put a decent amount of use on it, and I've heard good and bad things about S90V. I never really tracked what I was cutting with this like I have in in-depth stuff before, and I've never actually cut tested it. So I decided I was gonna give it a run and see, what it could do. In real world use, I noticed this S90V kind of taking edge deformation kind of easily, and I wondered how that would translate in testing. I've been freehanding this one a lot, and obviously in testing I use the wicked edge, so it's gonna kind of help me see, if it's more of the steel or if it's more of my freehand sharpening that was making that edge take any sort of deformation to it. So to prep for testing, I reprofiled this to 18 degrees per side. It was sitting at 20 degrees per side prior to that, and sharpened to 1000 grit diamond, just like we always do. That's with my wicked edge stones, diamond stones. Then after that, I strop on 16 and 4 micron CBN on leather. What I did notice about that when I sharpened it is that it formed a pretty large burr really easily. That's normally not a quality that translates to good performance. Normally the stuff that forms small burrs and deburrs easily, that's the stuff that performs a little bit better. It indicates a better heat treat generally. I didn't notice that big burr formation on Spyderco's S90V quite as much when I sharpened that PM2 the other day. But regardless of that, the edge that came up was plenty sharp and still had a good amount of bite left to it. So I went ahead and ran the test, and for those of you who have been here a long time, you know what the test is, but for those of you that are new and maybe just seeing this video, cut cardboard till it no longer cuts printer paper cleanly. When it stops kind of biting into that printer paper, that's when I call the test. So on that edge, this 940-1 did 328.5 feet, which isn't really that great in the grand scheme of things. It's kind of low for S90V, what S90V should probably be at. I would think the S90V should be 400 to 500 feet, considering its chemical content. This scores kind of below some of the Crewwear S110V, M4, and Rex 45 that I've tested so far. If you guys want to see all those results, they're in the Google Doc that's linked in the description below, so you can kind of see where it stacks up. I've also been seeing a lot of talk lately on the forums about sharpening abrasives and how much they make a difference in performance. You see a lot of guys talking about, well, I use these Sharpening water stones on, S90V and all these other, high carbide steels, and I don't notice any effect on performance. So I decided to kind of test that here. I ran the test back again, with the only difference being that the edge was finished on the 1200 and 1600 grit ceramics from Wicked Edge. These are the same ceramics this is the same manufacturer of ceramics that Spyderco uses, I'm pretty sure. So what you're getting here is basically the same stuff that you see on the Sharp Maker or any other ceramic bench stones. So literally the same progression, up to 1000 grit diamond, then finished on those ceramics, and then after that stropped on 16 and 4 micron CBN. With that edge, it didn't feel quite as keen, but it was still sharp. It was still, cutting paper very, very easily. It just didn't feel like it came up quite as crisp, if that makes any sense. Went ahead and ran the test again, and that test came out to 157.5 feet. So you might be thinking, that's a big difference, and it is. It's 108.6% increase when you use a full diamond progression off of those two tests. That's massive. When we're talking 157 feet, you're talking in the realm of some of the budget steels. D2, HCR isn't quite that good, but OS 8, you're talking budget steel performance when you finish this knife, this particular 940-1 with ceramics. So you might be asking, why does this happen? It's all about carbide types and the hardness of those carbides. S90V has two main carbide types. For those of you that don't know, carbides are carbon in the steel pairing with another element to form a cluster of molecules that's going to be harder than the rest of the steel. So in something like S90V, that's where you're getting a big majority of your wear resistance, because you have these hard carbides, hard little clusters in here that are harder than the rest of the steel, and they're very, very resistant to breaking down. So in S90V particularly, it's 13% vanadium enriched chromium carbides. So that's kind of where the vanadium clings to the chromium carbides, which will make those chromium carbides slightly harder. Those are roughly 2,000 Vickers. That's a different hardness scale than Rockwell that we typically see for like blade hardness. I think Vickers is used more for things that Rockwell can't measure. You know, it's at a harder scale than what Rockwell is. Rockwell is only useful up to a certain number. Then you also have 9% vanadium carbides. Those are just standalone. It's just vanadium and carbon pairing together. And those are roughly 2,800 Vickers. So a decent bit harder. When we're talking ceramics, like this right here, your main abrasive in this ceramic is aluminum oxide, which is sitting at 2,600 Vickers. So that's hard enough to abrade those vanadium enriched chromium carbides, but definitely not hard enough to abrade the vanadium monocarbide, where the vanadium and carbon are just together by themselves. If those ceramics can't abrade the carbides, they just weaken the surrounding steel around those carbides. And that surrounding steel holds those carbides in place. So if you're weakening that area, those carbides are very, very weakly in place in that steel. That's going to lead to a coarser edge due to those carbides not being shaped. They're basically still, their full width and full thickness at the edge. There's also less steel holding those carbides in place, which can lead to that edge breaking down faster. If there's less, like let's say a good analogy is like stones in concrete. If you wear away the concrete and the stones are still there, those stones are more likely to chip out because there's less of that concrete holding it in place. So with all that being said, you might be thinking, why does this matter? Almost every popular knife steel that's out on the market right now has some amount of carbide in it, and you're going to need diamond or CBN to abrade that properly. Diamond, I'm not sure what the Vickers hardness is, but I think CBN was like 4,600, so well above what vanadium monocarbide is, and it does abrade that pretty easily. Without that diamond or CBN, you're losing a significant amount of performance that you're paying your good money for when you're buying these steels. I mean, we saw it pretty easily in this test. I've seen it one other time in Maximate when I ran that test when I was doing the whole Maximate experience thing. And that was very interesting. It wasn't quite as much of an increase as you see here. I think that has to do more with the carbide type in Maximate. It's not quite as many vanadium monocarbide like this is, but it's seen very often. I mean, if you're even one of those guys that's just touching up your knife on a sharp maker, you're losing performance every time. So basically what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is spend the money, invest in your sharpening setup, so you can get the most out of these steels that you're paying your good money for. You don't even have to buy something fancy. I mean, diamond stones like this, like the electroplated diamond, are relatively cheap. DMTs are about 40 bucks a pop. You can get a full set from extra coarse to extra fine for roughly $150. I know you guys spend that on knives easily. So it's definitely worth the investment to grab something that is going to maximize the performance of your knives. That even goes down into your strops. So I would definitely recommend grabbing something like the CBN Emulsion from Bark River. I tend to use 4 different grits, 16, 4, 1, and 0.1. It's just nice to have that kind of stuff, because if you're finishing up your edge, even with like those green compounds, those are aluminum oxide based, and all that work that you put in with your nice diamond stones and stuff is being minimized. My rant's kind of over. With that being said, a huge thank you to Knife Steel Nerds and Triple B, where I pulled a lot of the hardness and carbide numbers from for this video. I'm going to put a link down in the description to both of those so you guys can go check them out. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like down below. And always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.